I speak the truth. Y'all know what I'm bringing to you.
You're live on the air. And The Truth with Terrance Ruth. North Carolina news and politics, culture, sports, and the latest from the Triangle and Eastern Carolina. The Truth with Terrance Ruth.
Welcome to The Truth with Terrance Ruth. I'm always excited to be with you today. We have a good show. Before I start, I want to start with this. I normally don't, but I want to start with the number. If you have any comments, you want to call, you want to engage, you want to be inside this conversation with me, please call 919-872-9210, 919-872-9210, or 252-937-7400, 252-937-7400. Again, we have some great topics today, so I know somebody's going to want to jump in, so I wanted to give you that number right off the top. Now, I always start with a sort of soft landing top five to sort of just get the day started. And I wanted to tell you my top 5 NBA greatest of all time. All right, so for those of you who don't know, I grew up with Kobe Bryant, okay, the late Kobe Bryant. So what I did is I selected my number one. So I'm gonna give you my number one at the top, then I'm gonna start at 5 and come back up to number one. My number one is Kobe Bryant. But then I told AI to give me the rest of the 5. All right, so AI, ChatGPT gave me the other 5. And I liked it, okay? It had another Laker in there. You already probably know who that Laker is. But this is my top 5, all right? Number 5, for those of you who are new school, y'all used to KD, y'all used to Stephen Curry, y'all used to Klay Thompson. This guy was a three-point champion before all of them were born. Larry Bird comes out in number 5. Larry Bird was a Celtics, won multiple championships. He was the one with Magic to give the reins to Jordan, okay, for those of you who were too young to remember. Matter of fact, back in the day, before NBA Live, there was a Magic Larry Bird video game. Some of y'all don't even know about this thing, man. Barely had color, okay? Back in the day, there was a Larry Bird, Magic Johnson video game, and it was the best game ever, okay? So Larry Bird, a forward known for his basketball IQ. We think that forwards nowadays are shooters, and this is a new thing. Larry Bird was a forward, and he was a sharpshooter. He earned my top 5. He won 3 MVPs. He won 3 NBA championships. This is back in the day when 3 was a lot. Now you got Jordan, who came out and did 3 peats in a row. And so Larry Bird starts us there. Again, naturally, I'm going to go to my number 4, and that's the Magic Man, Magic Johnson. Magic Johnson before Kobe was my favorite player, Magic Johnson. So Magic Johnson was known as Showtime with the Lakers. He had a great team, but that didn't stop him from being great. Number 1, his IQ was off the charts. This guy won the championship as a rookie. I want to say it again. He won the NBA title as a rookie. All right? I can't even name the last time that has happened. I'm talking about the star of the team as a rookie. So I want to put that out there, Magic Johnson. I think he was about 6'9" as a point guard. His court vision, his passing, but he had crazy charisma. Not too many people had that. Like, KD is amazing, but his charisma is a 0. Okay, so most people can't even engage with KD. All right, so again, Larry Bird is number 5. Magic Johnson is my number 4. Magic Johnson also, I got to get this to him. He is a person that can play with anybody. He was a team player. He sort of epitomizes what it means to be a captain, an admiral on the court, all right? So Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson. Number 3, I ain't a big fan, but I get it, right? He has almost every record. LeBron King James, all right? The LeBron King James. Got to give it to him. I'm not going to lie to you. I remember we were driving from the beach when he was traded to the Lakers, and I was happy. I'm going to let y'all know, okay? I was driving from the beach. I remember that drive because I couldn't believe that the Lakers landed LeBron James. And he delivered. 2020, he brought the championship home, all right? So I got to give it to LeBron. And he has created some statistical feats that I didn't think were possible. To be the all-time scoring title champion of all time, scoring leader, I just didn't think that stat could be broken. I'm gonna be honest with y'all. That stat was almost like a fake. It was almost like when Westbrook broke the triple-double. I just was like, man, nobody's ever going to break this thing. And when Kobe got 80 points, I was like, nobody's going to score 100 points, but it's possible. I mean, we've had somebody score 80 points in our lifetime. But LeBron has reached a feat that I just didn't think was possible. So that's number 3. Number 2, you already know who number 1 is. Number 2 is M to the J, Michael Jordan, the person who brought in long shorts, the person who brought in cool socks. Now, y'all don't know about the socks. Y'all talk about his sneakers, but he brought in cool socks. The person who used to wear a chain, a gold chain while he was dunking on you, all right? Michael Jordan. What I like about Jordan, though, to be honest with you, he was the first one that had a series of documentaries that I watched. Come Fly With Me, all those documentaries. We used to put them on. This is back for those who are young, when you used to have VHS. You used to have to rewind the tape, all right? Michael Jordan had all the documentaries that you watch. Now, every championship team that come out get a documentary. But at the time, Jordan was it, man. You get all the Jordan videos and you watch them over and over again. But Jordan has done so much for NBA, for sports, for black men. I mean, he really has done quite a bit. And he's from here, North Carolina. So, again, Michael Jordan, he's widely regarded as the GOAT. Even though LeBron probably has every stat, Jordan still is, without question, most people consider the GOAT. Now, let's get back to number 1. All right, number 1 is Kobe. Now, the reason why Kobe is significant to me, because I remember when they were playing the Pacers in the championship. Shaq, Kobe, Robert Horry, Derek Fisher, and Rick Fox. Some of y'all don't know Rick Fox. When Kobe plane crashed, they thought Rick Fox was on. They announced that Rick Fox was dead. That's how close he was to Kobe. But that 5, Glenn Rice. I'm sorry, Glenn Rice was on the Lakers at the time, and Rick Fox, I think, was on the bench. But that team right there was the first time I ever watched basketball. Like, watched the play, watched the defense, watched the triangle offense, watched the timeouts, watched every game. Before that, I would pass through and sort of look at. This is before YouTube, y'all. There was no highlight films, okay? ESPN, though. ESPN would rotate the same show over and over again. I would watch ESPN, but this is before YouTube. But that was the first time I sat and live watched NBA games, and that was Kobe Bryant. And at the time, he was a good second string. Shaq was the guy. And so for me, Kobe was number 1. So I just wanted to give you my top 5 as we wind down this NBA season. We are in the playoffs. It's actually a good playoff. My Lakers are struggling, so I don't even want to talk about that. They had a good game last time. I've been watching KD, man. He has a pretty good team, but he's down 0-2. But again, my top 5, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, LeBron James, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant. That's my top 5 with the help of ChatGPT. All right? So I picked my number 1. AI picked my number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, y'all, we're going to move on to North Carolina headline news, everyone. The very first one is interesting. I sort of seen it coming. It has to do with politics. Planned Parenthood voter campaign, they're dropping $10 million on voter engagement in this state. Planned Parenthood is dropping $10 million on voter engagement campaign. You might say, what is that? Okay. So there's several phases to a voter engagement. There's one where it's just a 501c4 or C3 organization that is registering people to vote. That's their whole role. It's to register people to vote. Then there's a group of people who are teaching you how to navigate the voting system, how to know your rights around voting, know when to vote, know what you're being fooled about or what tricks are out there, know when you see a lie. Then there's another group that's recruiting volunteers for people to sit at polls to help make sure that there's no fraud or corruption going on at campaigns. Then there are people who actually help the people who are registered get to the voting booth. And so these are like GOTVs, to get out to vote, make sure there's hyped campaigns around voting season. So again, $10 million by Planned Parenthood in North Carolina. This campaign aimed to raise awareness and encourage voter participation. Now, it's amazing to me that even though we drop so much money, money alone is not the motivator for voters. So again, I said this back when we were in the primaries. If you follow this show, I said you need to vote all year long, which means you need to be studying what candidates will be covering you, will be representing you all year long. You have the time before it's November to make your selection. I think early voting is in October, I believe. So you have the time, okay, to get ready for that. All right. This one is a big one. I started seeing commercials like FanDuel, I believe it is. Sports betting promotion is now in North Carolina. If you're interested in sports betting, North Carolina sports books are offering bonus bets, promotions during the NBA and NHL playoffs. So if you watch any of the NBA playoffs, you would have seen 1,000 commercials. I think Kevin Hart is talking right to North Carolina. Like he literally says, North Carolina. All right, so again, sports betting is here. It's live and it's already active. Our Hurricanes, if you're watching the Hurricanes or if you're watching any of the NBA, you're going to see North Carolina specific commercials on sports betting. All right, and they have all these promotions, etc. But make sure there's always a hotline on those commercials. Make sure you get help if there's an addiction that develops. All right, there's always a number on those commercials. All right. All right, here's some local news. One is a judge has struck down a North Carolina law on felon voting, citing its racist origins. Now, this is important. There is a member in our state. His name is called Dennis Gaddy. He was formerly incarcerated, and he spent his life making sure that those who are incarcerated had the right to vote. He is a part of a national organization that is allowing for people who had a criminal record to have the ability to go out and vote and be a part of the political system. Since that time, there has been a battle and some steps backwards. And so part of the news is referencing this law that struck down the ability for felons and formerly incarcerated individuals to vote. And so follow that closely. This may be a barrier for some, even if this law is removed and felons and formerly incarcerated individuals have the right to vote. The stigma, the fear of engaging voting will remain. And so that's why people like Dennis Gaddy is important, that he allowed for those who can vote, don't feel the fear or the pressure of entering the voting booth and voting. All right. Another one here, it says that a dog spent, this is a soft one for y'all, okay? Dog, I have a dog, okay? We went and got a sheltered dog. His name is Oakley. I originally wasn't a big dog person. My mother always had a cat, but we do have a dog. And Oakley, if we had a fire in our house, Oakley would probably save my wife and my son, and I would probably be still in the house. But we're close now. We're close now. But this dog spent 175 days in a shelter before finally finding a loving family. Oakley had a similar story. He was trapped in a cage. The owner didn't take care of him, and so we have him now. Been a wonderful fit. All right, very last one. UNCG Greensboro provost is stepping down. He's saying, or she's saying, due to cancer, while standing by a controversial program review. Now, at the time, if y'all wasn't paying attention, I think they stripped several programs at UNCG Greensboro, and it caused a lot of issues on campus. With that being said, the provost is now stepping down due to cancer. All right? So that is our North Carolina news. North Carolina news. Now, we're going to go ahead and take a quick break. When we get back, we're going to move into Eastern North Carolina news. And so see you on the other side of this. You're on The Truth with Terrance Ruth.
Every time I step in the booth, I speak the truth. Y'all know what I'm bringing to you.
You're live on the air in The Truth with Terrance Ruth. North Carolina news and politics, culture, sports, and the latest from the Triangle and Eastern Carolina. The Truth with Terrance Ruth.
Welcome back. All right, now I want to touch Eastern North Carolina for a few, and I want to start with an autism facility paving the way. There's a new autism facility, and again, I have a nephew who is on the spectrum, autistic spectrum, and one of my favorite human beings on earth. And me and him vibe over Skittles. Now he organizes his Skittles. I don't have that patience. But he organizes his Skittles by color, and so me and him vibe over Skittles, y'all. So you just know I'm a big candy person. He's a big candy person. That's why we related, all right? But this is good to know. And in Raleigh, they have a coffee shop called 321 Coffee. And they do number one, the coffee is amazing. One of my favorite coffee shops in North Carolina. But more importantly, all of their staff members are on the autistic spectrum. So they offer job opportunities. It's amazing. Dynamic, mission-driven. The founders came right out of NC State University. It's just amazing. They're expanding all over. But Eastern North Carolina is creating a facility. And in the article, when it came out, it said autism is a diagnosis, but it doesn't change who the person is on the inside. That's what I believe. Now, so it's amazing that we are receiving a new facility that's paving the way in Eastern North Carolina. The very next one is gardening tips for coastal North Carolina. Now, again, we're getting to where the heat, it's cool right now, but it's getting to where the heat is up there. It's time to garden. Now, I don't have a green thumb at all. I don't even want to even pretend. That's just not my lane. But here are some gardening tips by the Barbara W. Ellis new book, Container and Small Space Gardening for the South, How to Grow Flowers and Food No Matter Where You Live. Now, this is important because if you've been to the grocery store lately, you probably want to grow some of the cost in your yard before going and paying for it at the store. But it offers some guidance. This book offers some guidance on dealing with the sandiest coastal areas, and what does it mean to actually grow your own food, no matter where you are. All right. The very third one for Eastern North Carolina is medical marijuana sales begin at the Cherokee store, Eastern North Carolina. Medical marijuana can now be legally purchased in North Carolina, with the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians opening its long-planned dispensary on tribal land. So for some of y'all that are driving from work, you're probably gonna keep on driving until you get to that tribal land. There's now for sale, medical marijuana can now be legally purchased in North Carolina, all right? So that's Eastern North Carolina for you. And now I wanna get to a topic about health and wellness, our health and wellness section. So recently, I held a panel on Black men mental health. And this was in response to one of the more famous women actress who lost her son to suicide and a Black boy to suicide. And so I was asked to come on PBS to talk about it. And so I had my co-anchor come and join me in another panel on mental health, but it was his session. He spoke on it. He said, in order to really get to the core of mental health, you have to deal with the trauma of youth, of boys when they're small, when they're younger. And he brought up something in his story that I almost never hear anyone talk about. And again, to call and join me in this conversation is 919-872-9210, 919-872-9210, or 252-937-7400. So in his testimony, his story, his reflection, he talked about child sexual abuse that he experienced. Now, again, I've been around a lot of Black men, and I have not heard this often. And he shared his story because he didn't want to start at mental health as an adult. He said, we need to go visit my whole story. And when he went through his whole story, he talked about sexual abuse as a boy. And so this is a complex issue. It's a very non-discussed issue. You hear some of it coming out in sort of Diddy conversations, and you're hearing some of it come out in other conversations, but this is a tough one. And so I said, well, let's walk down maybe a top 5 as to why this would be a difficult conversation for Black men to talk about sexual abuse as a young child. I think Tyson and R. Kelly had experiences when they were younger. But again, you learn this after their lives have hit turbulence. How do we have healthy conversations around child abuse for Black men? But here are some of the things they say that probably keeps this topic silent in our community. Number one, it's just taboo and avoidance. In many homes and social circles, discussing childhood sexual abuse remains taboo. And that's still real today. Conversations about this topic are often avoided, making it difficult for Black boys who have been sexually abused to share their experiences. And they don't want to be seen as less than. And so it becomes an unavoidable conversation that's taboo. And the silence continues into adulthood, as men are rarely, if ever, disclose that they have ever been violated, even to their children, to prevent it from being a generational journey. So the first one is taboo and avoidance, all right? And again, very tough topic, very hard thing to talk about, especially when you're not told to have emotions or to have emotional responses to things. How do you have this very difficult conversation? Number two is psychological impact. So childhood sexual abuse leaves psychological wounds that black men often learn to pack away, put it in the basement of your mind for years. For years. These emotional scars can affect their mental health and well-being. Again, once you pack that away, somebody almost have to remind you that that thing existed at one point. Again, we're talking about a very tough topic. I would love to get your thoughts. 919-872-9210, 919-872-9210. Again, we're talking about silence for black men who have experienced sexual abuse as a child. The third one is race and ethnicity. Black children are almost twice as likely to experience child sexual abuse compared to white children. I want to say that again, okay? Black children are almost twice as likely to experience child sexual abuse compared to white children. The intersection of race and ethnicity plays a role in the prevalence of abuse, but cultural norms and societal expectation may discourage victims from seeking help or speaking out. Okay? These cultural norms and these sexual expectations, societal expectations may prevent your community from actually engaging in this topic. All right? Now, I want to touch on the norms, and then we'll go on a break and come back for the next three. So the norms that we're talking about is not having comfort with counselors, not being able to religiously explore pain and trauma, not being able to have these conversations with families who haven't talked about their own historical story. So again, race and ethnicity plays a role. Black children are almost twice as likely to experience child sexual abuse compared to white children. When we come back from this break, I want to touch the last three that prevent us from talking about our childhood sexual trauma as black men.
Every time I step in a booth, I speak the truth. Y'all know what I'm bringing to you.
You're live on the air, and the truth with Terrance Ruth. North Carolina news and politics, culture, sports, and the latest from the Triangle and Eastern Carolina. The truth with Terrance Ruth.
Welcome back to Truth with Terrance Ruth. Now, mind you, we have been going down the 6 factors that may contribute to black men being silent on childhood sexual abuse. And again, if you want to participate, it's 919-872-9210, 919-872-9210. And again, I remember hearing stories from older men, and it's tough when the only brand of the black man has to be in full strength at 100%. And any vulnerability doesn't even sound right or feel right coming from a black man. And so the last one we left off was race and ethnicity playing a part. But I want to move on to fear of retaliation and disownment. Fear of retaliation and disownment. The culture of silence within Middle Eastern, Asian, and black families inhibits victims from seeking help. Now again, you've been violated as a young child. Your culture of silence inhibits you from seeking help. So you got to wrap that inside and hope that the violation ends at some point, and then you got to deal with that. And the fear is of retaliation, of being disowned, prevents many from disclosing their abuse. Imagine you're the victim, but you're going to be the one that's disowned. That's what's at stake. That may contribute to the silence of black men being silent around childhood sexual abuse. Also, victims may worry about damaging the family name, family relations, because most violations and violators are family related. Family members, close to family, family friends, people who are at the picnic, the cookout. People at the Thanksgiving dinner, usually it's not too many people who are foreign or strangers. Most people who violate are familiar faces. So again, fear of retaliation or being disowned prevent black men from disclosing their abuse. The very next one, again, is just that family brand, that family relationship. The fear of facing negative consequences from the people you love the most, they said that may contribute to fear of retaliation and disownment. And so it may cause for black men to be silent on childhood sexual abuse. Now, we already know from contemporary research that when you are violated as a young child, it impacts your entire life. And imagine your entire life, you cannot come out and share without feeling that you're violating a cultural family brand or relationship. This very next one it's just conflicting emotions and shame. So we talked about dealing with emotional intelligence, being able to understand your own sort of emotional thermostat, as you would say. So imagine, victims often experiencing, conflicting emotions. So there's some men who grew up in a time where you would get props for being violated by a woman at a young age. You would get props. It would look like you're winning. So why would you feel shame around winning? So you would look like a fool saying that I've been a victim and I've been violated as a young child. Also, they may view their abusers as friends or mentors. That's a whole nother wave where you're now conflicted. These are just somebody you look up to. There's somebody that you value their words and input. And so those are very ones that betrayed you. And so you got these mixed emotions of somebody you honor and somebody you've been betrayed by. And so you're a young person growing up into an adult man and you don't know how to manage these conflicts. You begin to shut off everything. Shut off to your wife, shut off to your kids. You don't even want to engage them in levels of vulnerability because you haven't dealt with the conflict that was at your youth. And the very last one that I sort of hinted to in that one is just a lack of trust and safety. And again, those two terms we use all the time, but building trust and safety is crucial for survivors to disclose their abuse. Trust and safety are critical for survivors to disclose their abuse. If somebody feels safe and they can trust that environment, trust that person, then you give that black boy or that black man a chance to be vulnerable and share. Again, for me, the lack of safe spaces, I can see that preventing many black men from really going into this topic. That lack of safe spaces, I could really see it causing for black men to want to hide it away and put it in the corner, especially if your abuser is a grown woman and you're a young boy and it was seen as cool at one point in time. So then how do you take that out and share it and not be ashamed or feel that you're going to lose cool points or feel that you're going to damage some personal mentor relationship? Again, very tough topic, very tough issue. But what made that come to mind is I had a colleague who was sharing their vulnerable story to a room of social workers, and it was just unusual. And the room was very silent because they weren't used to black men sharing their honest, authentic story about childhood sexual abuse and how they got over it. So he didn't even stay there. He told the story because he healed. He told the story because he recovered. He told the story because he was able to deal with those conflicting emotions. So again, if you are dealing with abuse, if you're having a hard time finding a safe and trusted space, please find a therapist, a counselor. Please find a trusted spiritual leader. Please find someone in your family that you can trust and that you in a place that's safe for you, so that you can heal. I'd rather you be a healed person than a silent person. All right? I'd rather you be a healed person than a silent person. All right, everyone. We're going to go and, again, If you call in, I'll jump to that topic again for you. Very deep topic, a topic that hit me this past week, and so I wanted to share it with you. You can call in 919-872-9210, 919-872-9210. So now I want to go on to U.S. headline news. U.S. headline news. Now, if you've been paying attention at all right, you know that your former president have been chilling in court, all right? So you have legal proceedings involving Donald Trump. Donald Trump faces critical days in court in both New York and in D.C. Yes, he is in two different court cases, okay? Save the newspapers, save any news clippings, anything. I know newspapers don't come anymore like they used to, but whatever, save something. Because this is unprecedented, y'all. We just haven't had a president in court like this, okay? All right, so I'm just saying, this is like historic, all right? So save something, save your shoe, whatever it is that you could save to say that you were here, all right? But he is in court. His lawyers are arguing for absolute immunity from the criminal prosecution. They're saying a president should have some level of immunity, and that's their case. And so the attorneys have been arguing that from day one. I mean, the day one for all cases. And the Supreme Court is closely monitoring the situation. So you may hear some input or decisions from Supreme Court as well. This is a big deal, everyone. I know it's been lingering. I know it's been a lot of language around January 6th and criminal court case and Trump Towers, but this is a unique moment for America, all right? I just don't know what else to say, all right? Trump, that you have, in addition, the Trump hush money trial is underway, where details about payments to women have emerged, okay? So you have a former president, leading presidential candidate in court all day, every day, on multiple states, all right? So it's just unprecedented. All right, very next one. Environmental and climate actions, and Joe Biden has finalized new rules for power plants, marking a significant climate action. I found out, I had a chance to talk with this guy that worked for a power company in the South region. I'll put it like that. And so I have an electric car. I have an electric car, but my wife has a Tesla, and I have an electric bike. And you could have told me that I was saving the green, God-given earth. And he walked me through batteries. And he showed me how batteries actually harm the earth just as much as gasoline cars. And he was just walking me through just the mining for the batteries for the electric cars, how to discard batteries, how to power the charging stations themselves. He was just saying the net benefit is not what we think it is. And so, man, I thought I was saving the earth. I thought I was leaning on the side of planet Earth. And I'm not leaning anywhere. All right, so I could not. So again, Joe Biden has doubled down on EVs. So if you've paid any attention, he has doubled down on investments on EVs, investment on power, charging stations all around the United States. For those of you who've never had an electric car, they're fun to drive. That's number one. Number two, you don't go to gas stations. I love not going to a gas station. I just want to put that out to you, okay? You don't go to gas stations, and you don't go to the repair shop. All the things that for a gasoline car that would drive you crazy, the EVs have eliminated half of that. Now, if you like talking to human beings, you don't want to go to the EV route. So when you go to the mechanic with EV, that's a text message, okay? You get Uber credits to go home while your car is sitting at the shop. So you talk more to machines than you do to human beings if you go the EV route, at least the Tesla route. So again, Biden has doubled down on EV cars. I'm happy because I like them. I like EV cars. And then Earth Day 2024 is being observed, emphasizing environmental awareness and sustainability. Earth Day, everyone. All right. Public health and safety. Now, This is bizarre to me because this came up years ago. This is in New York City. It says a man accused of randomly punching 7 women in New York City has been arrested. Just randomly. Just walking to get, now in New York, walking is normal. Okay, I know here walking is not normal. In New York City, walking is normal. So imagine just walking to the substation, to your job, whatever, and you just get knocked out. Just straight knocked out. So he's finally been arrested, but they were doing this with elder or senior citizens. People were just hitting them and knocking them out in New York. But public safety man accused of randomly punching 7 women in New York City has been arrested. A report reveals that 131 million people in the U.S. live in areas with unhealthy pollution levels. All right, I'm going to say it again. 131 million people in the U.S. live in areas with unhealthy pollution levels. Now, we normally think that we're the most developed country in the world and that we have access to all the top, latest, greatest, brightest things in the world. Well, some of us, 131 million of us, are living in unhealthy pollution levels. All right, I just want to just give you that to chew on. All right, next one, tragedies and investigations. 2 young siblings were killed after a car crashed into a birthday party in Michigan. I mean, they were literally at a birthday party, car crash, and they were both killed. And so that was just a sad tragedy for the siblings. And then there's an investigation into a fake electors in Michigan, which implicates Trump as an unindicted co-conspirator. Now, this was top of the news today. So if any of y'all ever pay attention to news, this was top of the news. They have a list of fake electors in Michigan who are going to be indicted. And so please pay attention to that. It took a while. I mean, you're talking about 4 years from January 6th, but no, 3 years. 3 years. Yeah, so I'm sorry, time is flying. I just put so 3 years. All right. International relations and conflicts. Tensions rise as pro-Palestinian protesters are arrested at Emerson University. If you've been asleep in the U.S., that's the only way you wouldn't know that our colleges are on fire, okay? Our colleges are really the front line of Palestinian and Israel Jewish tension in our country. You're talking about provosts, university presidents stepping down, losing their jobs because of their handling of the protest. Again, this is intense. It looks like it's not going anywhere. So just keep an eye out on the universities. Keep an eye out on, the Middle East. It feels like the conflict is growing. Other national Middle Eastern countries are getting involved. And so that's something to keep you awake at night because it's not dying down, it's actually intensifying. And the very last one for our U.S. sort of check-in on top issues is the U.S. secretly, I don't know how you secretly do this, but you tell me, you call me, tell me how you do this. The U.S. secretly sent long-range missiles to Ukraine after months of resistance. How do you send, secretly now, how do you send secretly long-range missiles to Ukraine? But Ukraine has been asking for additional assistance, and it looked like the U.S. secretly is providing that. So that's our U.S. news for today. And again, I just want you to be, I just want you to have your eyes open. I know we have a lot going on in our country, but there's a lot going on in the world. So keep your eyes open to what's going on in the world, not just in the United States. Now, I want to jump to an issue. This is going to close this out. I want to jump to an issue that we don't really talk about. So we're entering into summer. People are going to go on their summer trips if you have that luxury. And people are going to be out in nature because the weather's going to warm up. But there's this thing called biophobia. Again, you can call me 919-872-9210, 919-872-9210. Again, you help me understand what biophobia is. Biophobia is a word I just learned from a leading expert in the relationship between Black historical culture, Black contemporary culture, current culture, and nature. So biophobia is the fear of nature. Biophobia is the fear of nature. And it's not unique to any specific culture, okay? So it's not unique to any specific culture, but it can manifest differently based on various factors, all right? So we want to explore how it manifests in Black culture. And why have we developed phobias related to nature? Now, I'm not gonna talk for everybody. I'm gonna talk for me. If you put me in nature, every sound gonna sound like a tiger. A wolf, a bear, every sound, every noise is gonna sound like a snake. Every little crackling of a leaf, okay? Biophobia, the fear of nature. Now, mind you, when this guy told me this, he said Black people were brought to the United States because of their familiarity with nature. It was the relationship to nature that made Black people valuable. Black people in their connection, it was a spiritual connection to the land. So the question is, how do we develop biophobia? How do we develop this element where nature scares us? Again, I'm just talking for me. If you got a different perspective, again, I know Black farmers right now. They live in nature. They eat leaves. they can tell you what's poison, what's not. So I'm talking about Terrance, everyone. All right. So biophobia, the fear of nature. Now, here are some of the things they say contribute to Black culture's fear of nature. All right. Number one is urbanization and disconnection from nature. The stereotype of urban poverty rests on Black people. Almost the identity of urban core rests on the stereotype of Black and brown people. Now again, we know that the number of people on financial support is mostly white. White is the largest number of people on SNAP and food support and hunger programs and poverty. We know that by far. But the brand of urban poverty, hood, ghettos, that sort of language rests on Black people. And it's called what they call it? The brick jungle, the cement jungle, the place where there's no trees, but there's wild living, okay? That brand rests on Black people, even if it's not true. And so part of this is saying that living in urbanized areas and having a brand of urbanized areas often limit the exposure to natural environments. You don't go and visit or live in that space anymore. As people become more removed from wildlife and green spaces, they may develop unfounded fears or discomfort related to nature. I can tell you right now, mine is unfounded. I'm gonna just give you mine. Mine is unfounded, okay? My father grew up in Southern Pines. If you go to Southern Pines, they literally drop houses in the middle of trees. Your neighbor is 1,000 miles away, okay? And not anymore, it's growing now, so probably not the same story, but when my father was young, he lived in trees. That's where you lived, okay? So my father didn't have the same biophobia that we have, all right? Lack of regular nature experiences can lead to wrongly evaluating potential dangers associated with nature, contributing to phobias. Now, there's a host on Choice FM, Bear, and Bear, he takes kids out into the wilderness, Black boys and girls, into the wilderness so that they become familiar with plant life. He actually have a plant shop where he show you how to plant, learn the plants, learn how to get a green thumb. He actually walks you through what does it mean to re-engage nature. So again, there are people doing this well. There are Nathan Brown out in Haven Farm. Again, he's teaching Black and brown boys how to re-engage nature. His young son is feeding goats, chickens, again, donkeys, all right? So he is learning the process in which it means to learn and understand nature so you don't have that fear. And so when we drop our son off at Haven Farms with Nathan Brown. They said, don't bring the LeBron James on your son. Bring some dirty shoes. He about to learn life. He's about to learn the green life, all right? And the very next one is evolutionary roots, they say, is another contributing factor. In our ancestral past, nature posed real dangers, all right? Just factual. Early humans needed to avoid infectious diseases, dangerous animals, harmful encounters. And so there's an actual sort of ancestral root that links to early real harms that existed in nature at one point in time. And so phobic reactions towards certain elements of the living world may have helped our ancestors survive. All right? So some of these phobias that I have in my brain that my ancestors have sort of allowed for me to absorb, some of them were actually needed to survive. All right? Some of them were actually needed. But these reactions persist even when the threats are no longer relevant. So now some of these threats are no longer even relevant, but the phobia still continues on down. The very next was the media representation. And it's a very good point. I can't tell you the last time I saw a movie with a black farmer and the expert on the land was the farmer itself. And so I'm trying to think. I can't in my brain. So media portrayal of nature can influence perception. Historical black individuals were often depicted as laborers or slaves working in rural and natural settings. All right? These representations may contribute to the disconnect between black culture and positive association with nature. All right? So media helps stir some of that. It helps allow some of that to be in there. All right? So for me, I want to leave with this last one. Underrepresentation in environmental organizations. So environmental organizations are literally saturated all across the United States, but our presence, black and brown faces in these organizations, need to be more prevalent. Need to be more prevalent in these spaces, and right now they're not. And so the very last one is cultural narratives and stereotypes. Cultural narratives and stereotypes may shape perceptions. For example, scary woods, wilderness. For me, you just give me a weird sound, a chirp that don't sound right. a chirp that don't sound right. A chirp that's chirping too long to not be a bird.
Oh my goodness.
Biophobia, everyone. That's a new vocabulary for us today. Biophobia.
Word of the week.
Word of the week. Biophobia. But I am actively trying to engage my son on that. And I would love to get your thoughts on this. Biophobia.
I don't have it. I'm from Halifax County. When bored, we would play hide and go seek in the cornfields in the woods.
Come on.
Something rustling through the grass would be like, oh man, that's probably a snake. And we keep on going. So
man,
yeah.
So for me,
but I do have a phobia.
So what is that?
It's Supreme Court phobia right now.
That's good, man.
I want to open up the phone lines.
That's so good.
At 252-937-7400. I want to open up the phone lines at 919-872-9210 because the Supreme Court right now is listening to attorneys for Donald Trump.
That's right.
To say that he could not be prosecuted.
That's right.
Basically for sending a mob down to the Capitol.
That's right.
To keep himself in place as president another 4 years or more.
That's right. And the case was arguing, when do this sort of presidential rights or privileges end when you're campaigning? Because he's in a campaign mode now. He's not president.
Right.
And so the one attorney was like, when are you a campaign candidate? When are you a president? And when are you acting in the role or the responsibilities of president? Mm-hmm. And they said that Trump has blurred all of those together to where this has become a case. that no other president has ever had to. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
You know, in the 70s, 80s, early
Yep.
90s, America had a really big problem with immunity. There were people who came to America. You could drive 175 miles
That's
an
right.
hour down Capitol Boulevard,
That's right.
kill three people,
That's right.
and then you say, "Oh, but I'm immune because I'm a citizen of another country,"
Yeah.
and they would haul themselves
right.
right back to their country.
That's right.
So immunity, that was a bad word.
That's right. That's right.
But I'm wondering if anyone is concerned about immunity of a president of the United States, where we may not be able to have this conversation in this room about an American president if that president doesn't want us to.
Well, Chuck, you bring up several things. Number one, there's a balance of power for a reason. It's a balance because if it tilts too far one way, you have a totalitarian government.
You do.
If that human being becomes, or that role becomes so powerful that it can't have accountability, you are now tipping in a whole. We're not even a democracy anymore.
Right.
So now you're in a place where somebody has become dominant. The very other part of that too is 5-6 years ago, who became judge became important. You start seeing these judge elections and the judge appointments become big deal.
Big deal.
Before you know who was judge, it was a trivia question to know who was judges.
Right.
Now, the judges are the judge seat. Who becomes judges across the United States is the game. And so you bring up two big points.
So you know my question, what I wonder often is, does the Choice FM audience care? Number one, do we
That's
care
good,
about
Chuck.
this?
That's good,
Because
Chuck.
of
That's
course
good, Chuck. That's good,
our
Chuck.
audience will be affected first.
Yo, you're right. That's good,
Will
Chuck.
be affected first.
That's good, Chuck. That's good.
And do we realize just how pivotal these next few days of this case being heard in the Supreme Court?
Yeah.
How pivotal it is.
Yeah.
919-872-9210. I said that. Did I say that too fast?
Yep.
Okay. 919-872-9210.
872. That's perfect.
That's our triangle number, 252. The 252 has always been strong with calling up about this type of stuff, man. 252-937-7400. I hope we're not too heady, because what happens oftentimes is people are listening to the conversation and then they'll call me the next day and be like, man, it was good. It was too good for me to call in and interrupt y'all.
But that don't care part.
Yeah.
So I just met with somebody who studied voter patterns,
Okay.
and they said at a certain generation Z, X, Y, the voting has almost stopped in time. They're registering people, but they're not voting. And so they're saying our democracy has not figured out how to engage, how to get people to care about these issues enough to leave their living room. And in our state, we're pouring money. We're pouring money into our state, but we're not seeing the same voting motivation. So to your point, do y'all care enough to leave your living room on a case? Now, mind you, at the same time, people are debating whether people are leaving the Democratic Party for other parties. That's a whole nother conversation, because then not only are you paying attention to your vote, but are you paying attention to where you land your trust in terms of party? So, I mean, to me, you're asking a good question, but the question is sitting around several topics that are connected to each other. But no, I'm with you. It's
but you know, this one specifically concerned me because what one of the attorneys said was, hey, if we give the presidency, I'm not talking about Biden, I'm not talking about Trump, but if you give the American presidency this immunity, it means that tomorrow, if we say, oh yeah, presidents are immune from anything, tomorrow Joe Biden could send a Scud missile to Mar-a-Lago and kill his political rival and then go to bed that night.
That's right.
After a nice steak and
That's right.
with
That's right.
foie gras.
Yeah, I mean, it just, but also, if you ever watch that documentary, The Art of War,
Not the book.
Not the book, the documentary played on that title.
Okay, gotcha.
And it talked about the defense minister, or we wouldn't call it defense minister, at the time when Kennedy was trying to figure out what to do with Cuba. And the reason why I'm mentioning that is because they talk about the countdown to whether we bomb Cuba, the Cuban Missile Crisis, or we not. And it was the Cold War. That wrestle, they were wrestling with what's the moral thing to do, what should the president do, what is the responsibility, obligation, what's the weight of losing that number of human beings. Immunity, you don't have that weight. There's no what you're wrestling with. That's just we just try again next time.
Right.
But if you look at The Art of War, Kennedy was struggling with that thing. He was struggling with the weight of that decision.
Yeah.
But immunity, what do you?
Well, and that's on the real heady side.
Yeah.
On the low side, let's talk about the rumors and stories that America told about Uday and Hussein.
Wow.
Oh, girl, I like you.
Wow.
Hey, God, bring her onto the palace tonight.
Wow.
That's on the low side.
That is so good.
But immunity
Yes.
could provide a person who wins the presidency that power, that ability.
Wow.
I mean,
Wow. Because part of the campaign promise is to release January 6th. Like, that's part of the campaign strategy. So again, when are you campaigning and when are you presidential and you're operating within presidential responsibilities?
well, he said not that first day, I'm going to be a dictator.
Yeah, that is a direct quote, everyone.
And that's
that is a direct.
That's a direct quote. And if you go online, what is the name of it? It's the 2025 Council, the Day 120. I can't recall the name of the website, but there is a website with names on it of people who will be hired and placed in positions under a new Trump presidency, day one.
Wow.
This stuff's already
You
in the works, just in case.
Yeah, but there's a frontline documentary, all Republican interviews, and these Republican candidates were saying, I was warning the Republican Party about this human being because once he's in, all the normal structures of our party are gone.
They're gone.
So the first presidency, he had to inherit some of the Republican established administration support. This time around, to your point,
Good luck.
It is a scary.
It's get back.
Yeah.
But okay.
Yeah.
Do we care about our lifestyle, our money, our kids, our education, our futures enough, to your point, to leave your living room one day every 2 years to go and vote? Take a few minutes off of entertainment
That's
Instagram
right.
and go to political Instagram to see if you can find something out about the people that you're voting for.
That's right.
Because, hey, by the time you're old, it may be too late.
Yep. Also, democracy requires full participation. If not, then we're just an oligarch. We're just only a certain group get the privilege to make decisions.
Yeah.
And so democracy requires maximum participation. So that's why people will give A&T issues on voter ID. That's why people in our state will give issues with Central and voter ID across the campus. If we can make barriers for you to go and vote, then we can keep that oligarch in place. But again, I'm scared because we haven't quite modernized our strategy to communicate the dangers, the weight of that dangers, to people who are sitting in their living room. So you don't even know it's dangerous. You don't even know that it's like. That's why early in the show I said, man, this is unprecedented time. Like, keep the newspaper. Yeah. Like, this is like not normal. This is not normal what we're in. A president in 2, 3, 5 cases.
Yeah.
Like, this is not.
Yeah. I
keep
mean,
the
we
newspaper.
haven't seen this since the days of Julius Caesar.
Yes.
You know.
Yes.
Wow. So, okay, we see just how much we care about this case.
That's good, Chuck.
Because sadly, we did not get a phone call.
That's good, Chuck.
I do love y'all. I do. I do. But I do want your opinion on things,
You
too.
have to.
Yeah. Put our number in your phone.
Yes.
And keep it, again, 919-872-9210. That's in the 919. 252-937-7400. We need the people's input on these very important topics that we talk about on Choice. We appreciate you listening.
Yes.
But you know how sometimes when you go to church, you know, the preacher needs you to say amen? This man needs some amen sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, we had one caller one time came in, and the contribution she made to mental health was just
blew it out of the water.
Yeah, so I need your voice, everyone. But now, again, I just want to thank you for joining us again for another episode. Again, I'm coming next week with another topic, so keep the number, call. We want to hear from you. And again, welcome to another episode conclusion.
Look, man, I hope we'll be here.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Iran and Israel and Iran, boy, they are acting up.
You go to the college campuses, you see the urgency. The college campuses are on fire. Protesting, provosters are getting fired.
To stop slaughtering people.
Really, they don't want to hear a campaign slogan. They want you to hear them. Like we are telling you, call in, give us your voice. They want to call in and give their voice. They don't want to hear they'll do their own homework. But the college students are on fire right now across the United States.
Yeah. But, you know, I'm looking at the news, and I'm not seeing a clear crisis on the college campus that requires New York State Highway Patrol to go in and bash people's heads.
That's so good. That's so good.
I'm not seeing that.
That's so good. Now, there are universities that are having protests and people are getting arrested, but it's not where it's shutting down the function of the city or the town or the university. Yeah. But you are getting mass number of people arrested. I think one person was shot or harmed. I can't remember. I don't want to put out wrong information, but I believe there was one incident. But it wasn't like back in the day when colleges was like burning buildings down. It was like yeah.
Well, we'll see. It's the People Station, Choice FM, the truth.
See you next week.
Terrance Ruth. Peace.
Every time I step in the booth, I speak the truth. Y'all know what I'm bringing to you.
You're live on the air.